Well, on the October 24th afternoon at approximately 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I am set for a delightful and robust discussion of horses trained by Cherie DeVaux. And we're delighted to have our champion for the weekend, certainly, with us. Are you in Lexington right now, Cherie?
I am in Lexington.
All right. Well, very good. Not too far away from us, and yet we were much closer over the weekend. The timing on this call is absolutely spectacular for a Tuesdays at 2. The spotlight really is on Cherie. There's been great press about her real ascendancy as a trainer, but really internally, we're all just really, really proud of her. We think it's really cool that Vava, whom we own a little piece of, was Cherie's very first trip to the turf course, to the special hallowed ground at Keeneland for a graded stakes win, her very first graded stake at Keeneland. And, I really believe, Cherie, that it was fated, that, because we know your hubby, because we've known you for such a long time, that we got to be a part of that. And it was really, really special. And I sensed that it was kind of a big deal to you too, that it was a moving type of experience.
It most definitely was. Things have been going so well this year and we've had a lot of firsts, but, it just, I really don't, you try not to put pressure on things that you want, but when you get out there and you can really, it's one of the few times where a trophy presentation isn't done in the normal setting. So when you get out there, and it sure is special to be out there for sure.
I do have a question that I've never asked you, and believe you me, I know I've asked you almost everything under the sun in our time spent together in the mornings watching horses trained, etc. You and David, obviously David's our bloodstock advisor,
Yeah.
As well as yours. And he's also become real family for the amount of time, and
Yeah.
you, by extension, have become real family for us over the years. What do you guys do when you're watching a race like the Raven Run? Do you stay together? Do you divide up in two separate spots? What's the routine? And I don't know if there's any superstition involved, but what's the routine?
Kind of just depends on where we end up. So I usually we're together just because, post parade is a while, but if I get sidetracked or, we'll just watch it. There's really no thing that we do one way or another, but we actually happen to be sitting in our box together for Baba. So that was exciting. Especially right after.
I know you do. Does he yell?
Yes. And I think he's worse than me because I try not to say anything until the very end. I'm learning to not get myself until they're close to the wire, but I can hear him well before I start carrying on.
That's good. That's cool. It's a nice little piece of additional information. Okay, we'll get right to the horses after really kind of just savoring the last little bit of that fabulous win with Bava in the Raven Run. But we'll start with a horse from the Keeneland September yearling sale, the authentic Dayenu colt. I think that's how you pronounce the mare's name. Really nice find for us. I mean, hip 2485. That's well into the sale. Very flashy colt. First year of the authentics, which we have a couple of them. And this colt is a half brother to a graded stakes filly that you trained a couple of years ago. So what's been your take on the authentics, but about him in particular?
Authentic still an unknown, but he's throwing a really pretty body on them and they're quite athletic. And the filly, or now the mare that we had in Reagan's Edge, was Reagan's first filly that she ever in the very beginning of our marriage that we had anything to do with, and she was a little powerhouse. So the mare, I think, throws a really athletic and strong bodied horse, and it definitely comes through on him. He's a gorgeous physical, and we're all just really impressed with his presence and how he handled himself, and definitely his conformation.
I'm looking forward to seeing him, and when I go down in December to our little get together with partners and looking at how the yearlings are developing. Game winner filly, the filly by game winner, another first crop yearling, first crop sire, game winner, daughter of the champion, game winner, is a 2-year-old out of a Medallion d'Oro mare. And what'd you think of her? I thought she was lovely, but more
Yeah,
importantly,
no, she's a really strong filly. A lot of substance to her, and she's another one. She's a big, powerful filly, a lot of size, a lot of scope to her, and she might just get better as she gets older, and matures, but she's a really impressive individual for sure.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll move on to the horses in training. We'll start off again like we normally do, alphabetically, or we have some method to our madness, put it that way.
Yes.
Determined Ruler. This is an American Pharaoh 2-year-old colt. We got him at the Fasig-Tipton Mid-Atlantic sale this past spring. We gave him some time after the sale, and then he moved into Cherie's barn late this summer. He worked, I think, about 10 days ago. He worked a quarter. And with that, knowing that it's just like the beginning, but how's he look so far?
He's come up with some last week before he was supposed to work back, some random filling in his hock, and we've x-rayed, and there's it's a weird finding. I don't really know what it means. And clinically, we scanned it, and the x-rays don't really support what's going on. Dr. Bramlage has been consulting with us. So we're doing diagnostics. He's going to go see Dr. Bramlage tomorrow and just see what's going on, and see if he can pinpoint, exactly why he would have some filling in his hock and in the area that it's at. So we're just right now he'll be in tomorrow, and so hopefully we'll have an answer by the end of the day tomorrow. I plan to move forward and just kind of what we're dealing with, because it's something odd that dare I say I've never seen before. So we're just trying to figure out what it is.
Yep. You trainers have to be part veterinarian in some cases and part detective in some other cases too. But it sounds like whatever it is, it's not going to be something that we'll be talking years and years from now about, except for the fact that it was kind of strange and tough to figure out initially.
Right. Yeah. So we'll get diagnostics, and like I said, we'll just go from there.
Perfect. Legalize. Another 2-year-old, a colt, son of Constitution. He just had his first race this past weekend at Keeneland. He finished 5th. I think he showed some really good, zip from the gate. And the rail, of course, forces you, if you've got it, to do that. And as we discussed right after the race, was just kind of a little bit of a goofball, a little green in the stretch. Cherie, now you've had a day or so to think about it. What's your overall impression of that race?
Yeah, it's the same. He came out of that race in really good order, and Louis just commented he did everything exceptionally well. Broke out of the gate, pulled himself into the race without having to be asked for that speed. He just got green. When he asked him to run, he just got a little lost out there. So it's definitely something we can improve on. And all of his speed figures came back respectably. So if he just continues to develop and move forward, he's exciting for the future.
Do you see him a Churchill starter if all went well?
Yes, correct.
Okay, perfect. Sea Cruiser, another 2-year-old. This one by Catalina Cruiser. We bought him at the March sale back in Ocala. Worked a handful of times for Cherie. Came up with what can be pretty serious, a bowed tendon, some tearing in the flexor tendon, and we've been treating it aggressively at Mycomet Farm in Kentucky. He had a checkup last week where Dr. Bramlage said, and I quote, "This is a really good response." That had to have been a great, nice, nice response from Doc Bramlage, where you don't know what you're going to get after the first month or so of treatment.
Well, and definitely for it to respond as quickly and as well as it has. And that's just getting on these issues before they're major problems. So, it was can be a tricky area way down at the bottom, because a lot of the flexing of it's right behind the ankles. So it's in a spot that it's tricky. But Dr. Bramlage is, he doesn't feel a need to revisit any scanning. but just keep a close eye on it. So that's what we'll do. I'll touch base with Bill in the next couple of days and just come up with a plan going forward on what we plan to do as far as getting him back under tack.
That's wonderful. I mean, like we said, we can't let our guard down, but really encouraging. Like to hear that.
Right, correct.
Zverev, let's go to the Z's here. 2-year-old colt by Oscar Performance came out of the OBS April sale this past spring. He's run twice, and he is a hard luck fella.
Yeah.
Fifth at Saratoga, fell back a little bit too early, too far back early. Wrong place, wrong time at Keeneland just a couple of weeks ago. A stirrup broke on the horse to his inside. I mean, you can't predict that.
Right.
I get the sense, Cherie, you have lost zero faith in his abilities after those 2 races.
Yeah, I mean, his first race really showed a lot of ability and promise. And this race, you really just have to draw a line through it. It's just unfortunate. The good thing, the takeaway is all the horses and riders came out of that in good order, as far as we know. But it could be a really scary situation that he was in, and didn't seem to rattle him. Christian, really don't know how much a horse can take, so he did the right thing and just finished the race under the horse's own power. But he's come out of that really well, and he's due to breeze towards the end of the week.
Perfect. All right, back to the top of the alphabet because we're moving into 3-year-olds now. Cagliostro, very talented 3-year-old colt. He was really unlucky in my mind not to win the Indiana Derby, the grade 3 race up there at Horseshoe. He ran a career best Ragozin figure last time out with really a wide trip in the Oklahoma Derby. He was beaten only 1.25 lengths for everything. I know you've been experimenting a little bit with blinkers in his last couple of works. How's that gone?
The first time he got just a bit lost. The first time he worked with the blinkers, and he's working with a really accomplished horse in Stage Raider, who's going to, he's being pointed towards the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. But they have been workmates pretty much all summer. So this last week, he worked really well on Saturday in the blinkers. It's just, actually, David and I were talking about him today and a plan going forward. He might be one we could run an allowance race, but I have a feeling we might, we all have to discuss this, and all this is ebb and flows and, how it goes. So we may think about giving him some time off for this month and sending him down to Barry Eisman and just letting him grow up. He's put in a really tough campaign. There's nothing physically wrong with him, but, we're looking for a plan going forward, and it just makes sense that if we give him time now, we can have him ready, February, March, and they have a really great series at Fairgrounds. They have a great series at Oaklawn. So why not give him the time now and then be able to have him ready for that, instead of keeping him in the barn and training, kind of the same like we do with Baba, a little bit more of an extended break. But I'm just going to have my vet tomorrow go over and do some x-rays and scans and just make sure we're not missing anything. So if we're going to give him a small amount of time off, we might as well make sure there's nothing that needs to be addressed.
No, great idea. Yeah.
So we'll just see. Right now it's just a brief freshening for him, just so we can have him back and have him ready for next year. Because like I said, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to try to, win an allowance race with him. Eventually these horses need time, and he's put in a solid run. He's been in the barn since 2 spring, or, when we bought him at the sale, so of his 2-year-old year. So it's time to just give him a little freshening, and the timing works. And, as long as it's 30 days, they come right back and really don't miss too much, and he'll be turned out and I'm sure running around on his own. So,
Yeah.
like I said, it's just something David and I discussed this morning, going over a few different horses. And I just think it just makes sense right now to do it.
Excellent. Staying with the C's, Cavu, very recent news on her. She was a 3-year-old filly who needed a throat procedure after her debut last December and made it back to the races yesterday in a turf sprint at Horseshoe, Indianapolis. She had the rail. That's always tough, but she shot out of there. She set the pace. It was certainly a contested pace and a quick pace before, I think, she showed some real grit and finished a decent third. What did you think of the comeback, Cherie?
There's a lot of positives for her. After she ran her first time, she was just stressed, and I'm not sure if it was on the poly track or if it was too far, or she had bled significantly in that race. The throat issue had come later, so I was really pleased with her. She really had to fight just to hang in there for third, and when you break from the rail, your hand is basically forced if they break well. And she handled it all well. And most importantly, she came back under her own power, cooled out well, and scoped pretty well, just a tiny little speck of blood, but it's most certainly not like what had happened at Gulfstream.
No, that's all positive. And there's not many people that know this. Obviously, I'm one of them, but her nickname is Meatball.
Yeah, she's a little meatball.
She's a little meatball. So Meatball did good yesterday.
Yes, we're proud of the meatball.
Domina, this is a 3-year-old filly. She's raced 3 times, maiden special weight company, and really, hasn't shown a great deal of ability at that higher level. So
Right.
Cherie's been trying to get her into a maiden claiming spot. The race wasn't used at this last week of racing at Keeneland. So we do have a backup option of, offering her the Keeneland November Horses of Racing Age sale to see, if we can get move her along in that way. So I think that's where we are with Domina, but is there anything else to add, Cherie?
Yep. So I do need to see what day she'd need to sell it. There's a scheduled race on November 8th in the maiden claiming ranks at Churchill. So we have to just see how the timing works on that, but she may be able to run there, and we'll still have the sale if she happens to not get claimed. If she does get claimed, obviously we scratch out of the sale, but there is one opportunity, I believe, before the sale to run her for the maiden claiming.
At the 11th hour, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Northern Invader, a 3-year-old colt coming off a really dominating stakes win about 2.5 weeks ago in the Gio Ponte Stakes at Aqueduct. Understandably, we have absolutely adored this horse as a race, just a pure racehorse. And yet it seems like we're just scratching the surface for his potential. But around the barn, he's flashy, and he has some other reasons why he's endeared people. Could you, spill the beans on that?
Yeah, so it's actually a funny story. He has just kind of made his way into our family. I actually saw him when I was over with the Demericks, who share the track with Steve Venosa, and I saw a really handsome, you can't miss him. He is handsome, a big chestnut, has a really nice presence, has that big white face. So I recognized him at the sale from when I had seen him working out before the Breeze sale. And then when we got him in and we're looking at the breeding, Adrian realized that this was a foal that she played with over at Peter Bergler's farm during COVID. She was bored, so she went over there to play with foals, and he wouldn't leave her alone. So he's kind of been part of our family since he was a foal or a weanling. But they call him Chunk because he's got a big chunky face and got a really great demeanor. He's a big, strong colt, and when we're jogging him up and checking him out outside, he yesterday was walking around on his hind legs and giving the handler a hard time. But you can put anybody in front of his stall. He doesn't care, doesn't bite. He doesn't do all the coltish stuff. He's just a really cool horse.
Around Saratoga, where we get so much traffic, it's always nice to have a horse that you can take somebody that's a little bit, nervous around horses.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have that horse in the barn, and thankfully we own him.
Yeah, it's exactly.
So good for you and good for him. And I think, the future is bright with Northern Invader.
Yeah, and I think in his running, he came when Johnny had ridden him the first time on the turf. He was behind and came with a nice run in the Secretariat and in this last race. He's shown a little bit more early speed, and I just think that's his natural speed. He gets into stride. He's got a big stride. So I think he's tactically, he's in a good spot because he doesn't seem to have to be pace dependent when he can get up there early on in the race.
Yeah, he's fun to look at, and he's been a lot of fun to watch run. Thank you for all that you've done with him. Pure Fire, this is a 3-year-old New York bred who started out his career in California, and then we transferred him to Cherie at Saratoga this summer, and he ran dynamite in one start against New York breds, finishing a very close second. Came out of the race needing a little bit of time off. Now he's ready to start back into training. And Cherie, I know that was a tough beat, but it was fun to see him run so well at Saratoga. Yeah. He hadn't been a horse that was touting himself in the morning, though.
No, and we try to be optimistic, but keep our expectations in line. So, he just he was going through the motions, and he was breezing fine, just not something that would make you pick your head up. But he really did try, and we were proud of that. And he's, like you said, getting ready to get back under tack. So, New York bred company seems to suit him, and so he's an exciting horse in that respect for sure.
Perfect. Foxfire is next. This is a 3-year-old filly by Empire Maker. Finished a very nice second in her debut at Churchill last month. I was delighted with that race. And back for Saturday at Keeneland, and taking some from the morning line handicapper, taking some respect. She's at 7-2, I think, on the morning line. Cherie, I think at first you were thinking about waiting for Churchill for a second start, but this race came up, and you jumped on it.
Well, she really came out of that effort at Churchill in really good order. You worry because she had put so much into it, and Brian said she was quite keen and reluctant to settle. So just kept a close eye on her in that respect, because you don't really want to get them back to the races before they rein themselves back in. But she's trained beautifully since, so she's had a couple nice works, and I didn't see a reason to wait any longer. She's doing well, she's moving well, so figured we'd give her the shot since it's there.
No, it could be a fun day for us on Saturday, and we have a number of potential horses, but she's certainly one of the ones that we're hoping for good things. Good. Jackie's Prayer. This is a 3-year-old filly. She had a rough time earlier this year. She had pneumonia, spent some time at the clinic before going back to Becky Makers, and she's now back in training, all's well that ends well from that episode. I know she's been, one that tried your patience a little bit and probably got your anxiety level up a little bit when she was at the clinic. How's she looking now?
She looks good. She's quite far behind. Just we really haven't been able to get her close. So we're starting back really from zero. But Becky did a great job. They investigated. She had that lingering temperature. So hopefully we could put that behind us and get her moving forward, because yes, it's been frustrating, and sometimes my brain is not working, but I'm pretty sure she had a shin. Maybe that was Foxfire. She had something going on that she needed some time. That's all. She was just a little baby stuff. And we had her, what happened is we had her back ready to go at Jeff Mulcahy, and then she got a little colicky. So, she just had this series of unfortunate events, and a lot of it's just not been soundness. So she's healthy, and, we'll just try to get her there as responsibly as we can to the races.
All good there. Mural. This is a Munnings filly. She's a 3-year-old as well. She's on her way back. She needed some time following her career debut, where she finished kind of mid-pack, or I think she was 6th at Horseshoe Indianapolis. And so, Cherie, what's the latest on this filly by Munnings, Mural?
She actually just came in today. Becky came to pick up Baba for her little 2-week respite, and Mural came in. So she looks great. Becky does a great job. She's been under tack for about 3 weeks, so we'll get her in and get her back going. She might be a good one for Turfway. She kind of needs a 6 furlong, a little bit longer than 5 A's, not quite 2 turns. So I think Turfway is going to be a good fit for her.
Yeah, the purses will be terrific over the wintertime.
Oh, yeah.
So
for sure.
That's great. Touching very briefly, and Cherie, we don't need you to do more than just nod your head vigorously, but
Okay.
Paletta, she's just a nice girl. Velocita, they're all in the Keeneland November sale.
Correct.
She's a nice girl, is in full the blame. So we'll be looking to move those three along in a few weeks at the November sale. Okay.
Yep.
Yep. Shake your head. That's good.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's great.
Prouvé, she's next. She's entered tomorrow at Horseshoe, Indianapolis. Other than where she broke her maiden just about a year ago. She had a procedure, arthroscopic surgery this spring. And so this will be her first start back from that. I know we tried to run her a couple of weeks ago. That race came off the turf, but here we are. How's she coming up to this comeback spot?
She's doing great. She's been breezing really well. She looks fantastic, really is matured and filled in. So, we're excited to get her back and get her back and started, but she really looks great. She's been trained. She's had a couple really nice breezes. So hopefully we can get her back to the races and, build from this race forward.
Perfect. Vava. We could spend the next half an hour talking about Vava. She really is rounding into spectacular form. Not to say she hadn't been a great joy to have earlier in her career, but with Johnny V and Cherie calling the shots, and just the race is setting up so beautifully, she's on a roll. I know, Cherie, that you love them all, and I know that is a sincere statement. You love them all. But there's something special about Vava. Can you even describe what that's all about?
Really, I can't, and I don't know. I just remember when we bought her at Keeneland and she was shipping to Barry that I had anointed her as the one, and Barry likes to pick on me. So he tried to say it was just because I was on the gun runner bandwagon, but she just has this wonderful presence about her. She's so classy, and she's been like that since she was a yearling. She's really classy. She doesn't really do anything wrong. She's beautiful. She's got this beautiful face on her, kind as eye, and loves the animals in the barn, loves the dogs, and she's special in that respect. Anyone can go up to her and pet her, and she just doesn't really do anything wrong. But then she gets out and she starts breezing and showed a lot of ability, and she's just one. And I think we'll find out, because Gun Runner's still a relatively young stallion. They seem to get better as they get older. Echo Zulu's like that, societies like that. So I was really impressed of how she exited the race. She's put on a ton of weight, a lot of muscle, really filled out since she ran at Charlestown, which I'm pleased to see. And, again, I was talking with David about her, and they have the Chaluki at Churchill, but really she's unique in the fact that we've given her time off. This is her third little 2-week mini vacation. And we point her to the race, and we come up with a plan, and she hits every mark and runs. So I didn't feel we needed to keep her in the barn and run her in the Chaluki. We'll just train her up into Little Brea, and hopefully everything goes well and she gets there. And it's a wonderful opportunity for her to show her stuff in a Grade 1.
From your lips to the racing god's ears, Cherie.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing like opening day at Santa Anita, day after Christmas, and understandably, I've been there for it. Pretty awesome experience, and so I'm hoping that she makes it and gives us all a thrill. So, and great work to you and your team for getting her to that special winner circle on Saturday. Okay, we're back into the A's, because now we're dealing with 2-year-old fillies. So Amendment, this is a 2-year-old Constitution filly. She's worked about, 8 to 10 times for Cherie. She bled just a little bit last time. And what is your approach for moving forward with her, after she had a little bleeding episode last time out?
Well, and they get spot scoped throughout their process of getting to the races. She doesn't have a history of bleeding. So It was her first time breaking from the gate, which again stresses them out. So trying to figure out what may have been a factor. Sometimes it's a lung infection. I just think it was her first time breaking from the gate, and she really had a nice breeze herself. So when they bleed, it does cause injury to their lungs. So the first thing is we give them some time to let the lungs heal. So she's jogged about since her last work, and New Orleans, I believe, don't quote me on this, I have to go back and check, but New Orleans still not under HISA, and you can run 2-year-olds on Lasix. So I have her penciled in to be one of the first to go down there. Before she did this, she was about ready to run. So if we can have the opportunity to run on Lasix, and just the farther away from a bleeding episode you can get with no more injury or insult to the lungs, the better it is to not have a long-term bleeding issue. So that's the thinking there. We'll get her down to New Orleans. First loads go over the weekend, so she'll be on one of those first loads, and she's going to start back galloping tomorrow.
Perfect. Oraculus is next. She's a 2-year-old filly who ran just an excellent second at Kentucky Downs in September. Had a brutal trip at Keeneland in her next start, finishing 5th. And I get the sense that we're ready to draw a line through that race and move on. Would that be correct?
That would be correct. She actually came out of that race just a little off on her right front foot. Which I think that horse that was bouncing off of her probably just sideswiped her, and it went away with a couple of days of walking and just working on the foot. But you definitely have to think that had an effect on her performance. So yeah, we just draw a line through that. She looks great. She's another one getting ready to work back over the weekend.
Ghost Rider's next. This is a 2-year-old filly by Ghost Zapper. She's been at Doc Eisman's, Barry Eisman's, you mentioned him, in Ocala. Showed some potential when she was able to stay on a steady course, but that's been a little elusive. She's had a series of just, minor issues, nagging type of issues. And Cherie and Dr. Eisman have decided to just slow down, stop, give her an extended break. And so I think we're looking right around the first of the year for her to start back. Is that correct?
Correct. And it's just one of those things where you can keep addressing it, or you can just turn them out and just let nature take its course. Ghost Zappers have a tendency to be older, later developing anyway. So really, and that's why it's really important throughout the breaking process and the pre-training and getting into races, you keep your eye on all these small little problems so that they don't become longer lasting problems throughout the horse's career. So, just with her, just forget about her in essence and just let her be a horse, and we'll just regroup with her the first of the year.
Nature's the best doctor, the best veterinarian in many respects.
Exactly.
Isalt's next. This is a 2-year-old filly who looked terrific, looked precocious earlier this summer. Kind of tailed off a little bit, nothing clinically wrong, but Cherie and her team just kind of sensed she was going the wrong way and made the decision to kick her out, send her to the farm. And she's been back now for a few weeks, had to work on Sunday at Keeneland. And I'm just wondering if you've seen a difference after the kick out session.
She looks much better. I was a little concerned. She was just starting to not lame, but just not moving freely. She's moving much better, both on the shank and on track. She's not the biggest horse, but she's really filled in and matured. And she looked great on track this weekend, and we'll just continue to do a little bit more with her and keep a close eye on her. But so far, so good with her coming back.
That's great news, because I know we liked her a little bit before she took a little bit of time off. Polyrhythmic's next. This is another 2-year-old filly. She's a daughter of Kintheros. She's been really on paddock turnout with Becky Maker, and she's coming up now on a recheck. And how would you describe her, just, sort of snapshot in time, in terms of, long distance, speedier type? What's your sense?
She definitely looks like a speedy type, more of a sprinter inclined. And she's another one. She'd have a little thing, we'd give her some time, and she'd have another little issue. So you try to give them every opportunity to stay in training, because that's really what develops it's not just to get them to the races, it's also about their bone development and their musculoskeletal makeup. But you know, when they start, just you can't get them over one hump, or you do, and then a couple days later another thing shows up, and it just means that they're just not mature enough, or their body's just not ready to take the physical strain of what we're doing on the track.
Good deal. Prodigo is next. This is a beautiful filly. She's by Uncle Mo, who just recently moved over to Becky Maker's farm for a break. As Cherie kind of noticed, her team noticed, and Dr. Bramlage confirmed that she was off a little bit in an area of her left hind leg, needed some time. Dr. Bramlage mentioning that Cherie stopped on her before it developed into something, you know, much more serious. Cherie, he did throw in a nice comment about how good looking she is, and so
Yeah.
that's always nice to hear. And I
Yeah.
think we've done the right thing here.
Yeah, well, she had an acute lameness behind, and those can be tricky. They might have kicked the wall, or they just got up. But it didn't fully resolve, and the area of concern, when he got her, she really wasn't that lame, but the area of concern could have been a pretty significant hind sesamoid problem if she fractured that. And she hadn't done much, but she was on her way to that happening. So this is, you know, one of those, we were being precautious, and it played out and worked out well, because you know, sometimes those you know, they can be pretty significant and severe injuries. So she's a really big filly, and time again, she's one. Time will do her well. She's obviously beautiful, like he said, and she's another one. She stepped on that nail, and then she had a little nondescript lameness in front that Barry was overly conservative. But again, in all honesty, the horses really just churn. They're so much better at 3 years old and moving on. So if they can get there, you know, we just have to be responsible for them to get to that point, to give them a fair chance at being a career racehorse and not just a 2-year-old.
Completely agree. Next is Sands of War. This is a Warfront filly out of an Egyptian Storm, out of the Mare Egyptian Storm, who ran for us. She ran once this summer at Saratoga. Came out of the race just, you know, juvenile tendonitis, which we see pretty often with 2-year-olds. Yep. And she's starting back in Ocala with Barry, with Dr. Eisman. Really kind of a similar case to Northern Invader had last year. Would that be fair, Cherie?
Yeah, had a few other things involved. Hers was just pretty straightforward, just thick tendons. That's what juvenile tendonitis is. And again, you risk with any inflammation of soft tissue structures, any fiber misalignment is, you got to wait until it heals. So she's actually, I had dinner with Barry last night, and she's ready to come in, and we'll probably bring her in straight to fairgrounds instead of sending her here and there. So within the next 10 days, we'll get her over there and pick up her train. But you know, 60 days, and it seems like it's here and gone. So it's really not that significant of time in the whole scheme of things.
No, and it's exactly what we think of when we see juvenile tendonitis. It's going to get better. They're going to get over it. Just have to give them a little break, and that's what's happened here. That's good. Commodore is next. He's the son of Curlin. He raced a couple of times going 2 turns on the turf in Indiana. Even with that, Cherie noticed that he was still carrying a fair bit of condition. You know, he was a little pudgy, almost like he hadn't raced and had as many races as he did. So she recommended gelding him, and that's been done. And Cherie, I know it takes a little while for the full effect, but have you seen anything thus far that you've liked since snip?
He's definitely physically responded well. He's gotten a lot less thick through his neck and his shoulder. He's tucked up a fair amount. He's had a couple works back from that, and he might be he's another one that probably Turfway will suit. The level of competition drops a bit, and he should be able to handle the surface. And again, he's the kind of horse that, just because he was ready early, we ran him, but he'll probably, or hopefully, will get a little bit better with time. again, we'll run them and we'll see. And then if, we have to find easier company, then we'll put them in a maiden claiming race.
Gotcha. The process is the next to discuss. He was sensational in his debut win at Ellis Park in August. He's a son of More Than Ready, out of a half sister to the immortal Zenyatta. And very typically for that family, he's a grand, imposing looking colt. And he was just about ready to race again a few weeks ago. Spiked the temp, took it easy for about a week. Back working now, Cherie. I think you're looking for a suitable spot at Churchill, are you not?
Correct. Gonna like gripe a little bit, but I've been looking for a 1-turn mile for him, to go from the 6 to 2-turn. I think for him, the way he ran, I just would feel more comfortable to just go that 1-turn mile to see if he can stretch out that speed some. And he worked back this weekend and he got a little tired, so he's going to take a little time. So we'll look at the end of November probably to get him back to the races.
Excellent. Cannot wait. Barbados. This is an unraced son of Medaglia d'Oro, another lovely, lovely colt, classic profile and pedigree. He's breezed a couple of times for Cherie. We had to hit that slow down pause for a splint that flared up about 2 weeks ago. But your take thus far, knowing we haven't really seen, the big 5/8 work with him yet.
Right. It looks awesome. He trains really well. He's been breezing really well. And this splint's it bothers him. So he's due to be freeze fired tomorrow. And, we'll just take it with him. And again, he's got a pedigree that suggests long-term, he'll be better as a 3-year-old. So we'll get him over that. And then hopefully everything will settle down and we can just move back going forward with him.
Just like that. Depiction. Yeah, just like that. Has anybody ever seen that in the horse game? Probably not.
No.
Depiction is a 2-year-old colt who liked the process. He's a son of More Than Ready. And wouldn't you know it, they broke their maidens in back-to-back races in August at Ellis Park. It was a hell of an afternoon. I tell you that much. It was fun. He ran in the Bourbon, the grade 2 a couple weeks ago. I mean, he was basically stopped inside before kicking in with a nice rally late, and he finished less than 3 lengths back. And it's a race that I think you can build on. This colt Cherie was not behaving like you'd like to see in his stall. He really wasn't settled, one of those kind of stall walker types. It affected his appetite and keeping the weight on. So what have you done to try to address that?
So initially he does crib and we put a cribbing strap on, and it's hard because the apparatus goes around their throat and we don't feel comfortable cranking down because the throat is so important to them. And then he weaves, and we have him on every stomach medication for regular ulcers, hindgut ulcers. So one day I just said, turn him out in the field. He wears a titanium hood inside to try to help him quiet down. So we trained him early and we turned him out, and he is just calm as a cucumber. Doesn't run, he walks around appropriately, scoping everything out, but he's not nervous. So we turn him out, we give him a bunch of feed out there. He eats everything. So he goes out from about 6:30 till about 10:30 with a water bucket, and he eats all of his food, and then they come back in the afternoon with his bandages on. They turn him back out for another 2 hours, and that's 6-7 hours outside of his, when you count training. He's outside the stall for a pretty significant amount of time, and he'll come in and you'll catch him and he'll weave around his stall even when nobody's there, but he's gained a lot of weight, just because he's more settled for a lot of the day, and then he's eating everything. So it's really made a big improvement on him mentally. So we'll just try to do that as much as we can. It's hard because a place like Fairgrounds doesn't offer that, but we'll have a few at Palmetto's, so that might be in the deciding factor of where he goes for the winter time.
Yeah, but good for you for figuring something out and having it work, so
that doesn't always happen, but when it does, when I see him, and he's a big, he's always been a big, long horse. So he might weigh a lot, but we've got to help him to keep that weight on.
Yeah. Norwich is our second to last horse to discuss. He's a 2-year-old. He's a colt by Munnings. Ran 5th in his debut at Churchill last month. Just a little green in the turn, but really something to build on. And just a very straightforward question: how's he coming? As you're getting ready for his next start at Churchill, probably in a couple of weeks.
Yep, he's doing great. He's come out and he's worked well. He's actually been a pretty cool character for us. Doesn't really do anything wrong. So I was a little surprised that he did that in the first race, but he looks great and he's training forwardly. So hopefully we'll see some improvement from him.
Excellent. Seaport Lane, the grand finale here. He's a 2-year-old son of Speightstown. Big, later developing type colt out of Medaglia d'Oro mare. And Cherie, I know you had him for a while this spring and summer and made some progress. And then he'd take some steps backward. And he was really physically a work in progress. I know you finally said, okay, like you've said it in a couple of instances, send him to the farm. Let's just let nature kind of let him grow up. He just came back. How does he look?
He's a big boy. He is very big. And he's going to be one that just takes some time to get fit. But he looks good. He's moving much better on the track. He's better about his hind lead with his, he was not coordinated out there, which was our main concern. But he's come back and he'll take a little while to get there because he is such a big boy. But I'm really pleased with how well he's moving on track.
We made it through, you and me, Cherie. We made it through. I think we both have a little bit of a lean to our.
Yeah, we start moving because I don't know about you, but I've gotten older and the back just doesn't do well.
I have to do the same things. So good for you. And if people have a question for Cherie to supplement what she's already spoken, obviously at great length and been really patient with me about any of the horses that you've talked about here. Now's the time to do it. Q&A, chat, raise your hand. You can even text me if you've got my number. And we'll try to finish this up in due course. Oh, I got a question here from one of the VAVA partners. And I'll just kind of paraphrase it here. But Cherie, so a couple weeks off for her, and then she'll come back and train with you at Keeneland. And when would she ship, if you were happy with her, to Santa Anita?
Actually, I had a conversation. We might bring her into Keeneland, or we might take her, get her back in for a couple days and send her to fairgrounds. Because what I don't want to do is, it depends on the weather in Kentucky, but I would like to try to keep her at Keeneland if they'll keep the main track open for us to breeze on. And then we just ship her the week before the race. Had really good luck with that over the years, not with myself, but with when I worked for Chad. But to send her out there, and it's a lot to ask of her, especially. So we'll probably just send her out there. We'll fly her out there 10 days a week before the race.
Very good. Got a question on Cagliostro. And I confess I'm not really an expert on Upstart as well either, but does he seem the type that's going to be better, as a 4-year-old potentially than as a 3-year-old?
Well, he's a horse that I don't think we've seen the best of, especially even his last race. He's been running good races, and he's another one. He's developed so much in the last couple months that I do think there's more in there. And I think if he matures a little bit, and if the blinkers help to get him to put his head down and run through the lane, I think there can be a lot of exciting races in his future.
Very good. Of the fillies that we bought in 2021, I've got Jeff, who's one of the partners in on that group. It seems like maybe Oraculous and Isalt might be the ones that we'd see, more near term starting. Is that correct?
Well, she just came in, but yeah, she's kind of amendment. Like I said, she gets down and we get her over this, she's basically ready to run. We just had to take a few steps back, but you know, she's not far away, but yes, I wouldn't say it's going to be a long-term thing for her.
Gotcha. Let's see, one other question. I'm trying to see if I've got any others here. We may have exhausted both ourselves and the partners on our marathon session. So I'll just say this: going once, going twice. All right, Cherie, you're almost in a reclined position, maybe take a nap, a lot of trainers do. Let's just put it this way: delighted with what happened over the weekend, not just for us. I mean, gosh, we love it when good things happen to us, but delighted for you. And one of the things that actually my wife said when we were in the director's room that I think needs to be really kind of emphasized here: Saturday was a day for women in racing. It's not easy being who you are, a trainer, and being in the considerable minority of trainers out there as a female, as a woman. Obviously, you know, Saturday was a filly that won, female trainer. We certainly had a number of female partners that were in on her. So I think it's a great tribute and a really neat thing that, whether or not anybody said it specifically, it was definitely Ladies' Day on Saturday. And so well done on that front too.
Thank you. And it's always fun to share it with you all, because everyone's just so passionate and exciting. And I appreciate so much support over the years, because you know, y'all have helped me out or sent horses or bought in from basically the very beginning. And I'm just immensely grateful for that.
Yeah, we feel like we're the foundation mare to some degree,
yes,
right?
You are, for sure.
Or one of the foundation mares. I think Paul Manganero would probably say he's right there too, I would guess.
Yeah, except he's not a mayor, but that's okay.
I do have a hand raised, and it just says Zoom user. Whoever you are, Zoom user, this is your moment to ask a question.
Yeah, hi, Jeff Silver. I don't know why.
Yeah, hey, Jeff.
But anyway, great job, Cherie. I guess if Vava wins the LeBray Stakes, right, in line for the 3-year-old filly of the year, Eclipse Award.
I think I actually just came up on my own thought, and you know, I don't know if she has would have the credentials to win it, but I definitely think she would deserve to be part of the conversation with a nomination. You know, if she does win it, because she's had a great year, but you know, Pretty Mischievous is a 2-time Grade 1 winner, the Oaks, or maybe even more, but the Oaks winner. So you know, I think she would definitely be part of the conversation.
It's a cool thought, and I agree with you, Cherie. I think if she wins the LeBray, I think we deserve to have a table wherever they're doing the Eclipse Awards this year. I'm not saying we got to win it per se, because all due respect to Pretty Mischievous and a couple of other fillies that have done quite well this year, but I think we ought to be at the table. So we'll cross our fingers.
Well, did they have over 100 buyers figure? I thought pretty much we were at the top of the heap there, but maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, they look at it as on a whole, and it's you know, it's not anything that they can just go on, because it's voting. So it's not everyone puts in their votes and they submit them. So it just depends on how popular she is, and she'll definitely be one of the horses that is current in their mind for sure. So you know, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and she definitely, like I said, she definitely deserves to be there. But it's you know, as with any of those, it's a high honor just to be considered. You know, and if she happened to win it, I think we would all be over the moon and put our dancing shoes on for a night.
So what you got to do, Jeff, and the rest of us, is pray that Midnight Olive and let's see, Isotonic win their respective filly races in the Breeders' Cup, and then we'll just swoop in and win the LeBray, and we'll be right there in the conversation.
There you go.
All
right. One other question: Sands of War, like everyone was pretty high on her, right? Is she going to run here?
So she's with Barry, and
run again.
I'm sorry, your phone cut
What was
out.
the questions, Jeff?
Run again. She ran in Saratoga, right?
Yep. So she ran at Saratoga and she had that little bit of tendonitis. So she's going to come back in a couple weeks and we'll have her ready for fairgrounds.
All right, great.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jeff. And thank you to the rest of the partners that survived the marathon session of going through all these horses. And Cherie, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Well done. And thank you to all the partners for supporting her and supporting us with the Cherie DeVaux contingent. Thanks and have a great rest of the afternoon.
You too. Thank you.